not an instructional video. This is another episode, I don't know if that's the right word, of Track by Track with Ringo Starr. And now we are doing, and I'll put a better picture, I don't know, a lot of glare on these albums. Beatles For Sale. Track by Track with Ringo Starr. We're up to the 4th album, Beatles For Sale. Alright, let's start with truth. In this album we talk about truth. I never, and I'm a fan of Ringo, but, you know, when there's stuff that he does that I don't think was all that, I'm going to say I don't think it was all that. And this whole album has some gems on it. 8 Days a Week, No Reply, there's some cool tunes in this album. But overall, I think the boys were tired. They were now touring a lot, they were playing a lot, they're in the studio recording. However, the two best things on this album for Ringo's evolution, and that's what Track by Track with Ringo Starr is about. Ringo's evolution from Please Please Me to Abbey Road. We're up to album 4. I do about one every 5 or so weeks of these episodes, each one a different album. And we have 2 tunes here. We have No Reply and a song that's not on the album, but it's a song they recorded as a single during the sessions of this album, and there were rumors it was supposed to be on this album, but for some reason it didn't make it, and that's I Feel Fine. Those 2 tunes, I think, are where you see the growth of Ringo. Okay? So let's start with the beginning. Let me grab the album here and start at the beginning. We're going to open up. Track 1 is one of my favorite Beatle tunes. No Reply. No Reply is a great song. And why do I think this is an important one for Ringo? Okay. Now, I don't think this was Ringo's idea. I don't think so. I think this was George Martin's idea, because George is playing the piano on this track, and Ringo, during the verses, plays a bossa nova, straight out of the book, club date bossa nova, with a 3/2 clave on it. And George Martin is playing the piano part with that same rhythm of that 3/2 clave. And in the choruses, it's a rock and roll thing. So I think Ringo was a good drummer, and I think Ringo was a good rock and roll drummer for that time period. And he was had been playing with Rory and the Hurricanes and other folks around town and in Germany and all that stuff. But I don't think it's that Ringo didn't know what a bossa was. I'm not sure if he knew how to play a bossa necessarily. And to me, because this is kind of George Martin's thing, I think he might have said, hey, Ringo, would you play this rhythm with me? And he was playing a bossa. But for me, what does that do for Ringo? The fact that he did it, and he incorporates it, and then he plays a really strong rock beat with hits in the chorus, what I see there is Ringo's palette beginning to grow. His palette is beginning to grow. And that's really what a drummer needs today, right? If you're thinking of yourself, well, I'm a rock drummer. Nah. In the words of Steve Gadd, and he said this on the Rick Beato interview too, don't be a rock drummer, jazz drummer, be a drummer. You know, find a way to do what they called you to do. And Ringo now was adding these styles, and we see, you know, later as the Beatles progress, he kind of adds some swing, and there's those Motown rhythms and little like rumbas he throws in. So all this kind of club date stuff is coming in, and it just makes the music more interesting. Okay, so No Reply. Great moment for Ringo on the album. And the next tune they do is I'm a Loser on the album. I'm not sure what order they recorded this stuff in. I'm a Loser sounds to me like John's attempt at country. Ringo just lays it in straight through. Good job, Ringo. I don't think he even takes a fill. Just 2 and 4. You know, a little on the up-tempo side. Nailing it. Good job. But again, no evolution there, just Ringo being a good rock and roll drummer in Ringo's way. All right, Babies in Black. Same thing. It's a 12/8 groove. And Ringo didn't do a ton of those. But another one, he doesn't take a single fill. He doesn't take a single fill in this one. It's just that same thing. The only thing that's kind of cool is in the last verse, he keeps his bass drum on all the 12/8, bum, 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 and that's kind of interesting. And I don't know where he got that from. That might have been a George Martin idea, or he just might have wanted to change it up in the last verse and do something a little different. And then we get to, all right, rock and roll music. We got to talk some truth. Now, I know they had played this in the Cavern Club and all that stuff. And maybe they were just really tired when they record this. And I know John Lennon thought they did a great job on the rock music, but they don't sound tight. Ringo plays 3 different beats on this tune. He does that Ringo soul beat, boom, bop, boom, boom, bop, boom, boom. He does boom, bop, boom, boom, bop, boom, boom. He does boom, boom, bop, boom, 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 bop, boom, boom. It never really locks in with Paul. It's the same thing over and over. The guitars don't sound locked in. Bass and drums don't sound locked in. I enjoy listening to John's vocals on it. Not one of my favorite as a band of their covers. Okay? I'll Follow the Sun is next. Ringo just pretty much plays bongos on that. Again, that's a Paul, kind of, you can tell, George Martin thing. I believe Paul mentions that it's one of the first songs he ever wrote. So I think he brought it in because they just didn't have much material for this album. They were working their butts off. All right? Now we're up to Mr. Moonlight. Not one of my favorite Beatles tunes. Not at all. I don't think John liked this tune. I don't know. I think he enjoyed singing it because I know I've seen interviews. It was a hard one for him to sing. Ringo's playing kind of like, it sounds like tom-toms with his hands, not bongos. Maybe he was doing that. I don't know for sure. But again, except for the vocals on it, not a track that I really listen to. Like, if I'm in my car, I'll pass over it. If it's on the vinyl, I'll let it play through. But again, I see Ringo doing that bongo thing that he does for the quieter Beatles tunes. It's a cover. Except for John, not a lot of effort on this one for Ringo either. Not like No Reply, okay? And finally, Kansas City. This is one of their old rockers. Now we hear Ringo start to shine again, but he's just doing that shuffle that he likes to do. And Ringo really shows now he's coming into his style. When he does those fills in 8 Days a Week, in Can't Buy Me Love, he likes those 4-stroke rough fills with the bass drum at the end. Brum, brum, brum. He does that a lot in these shuffle tunes. So we see that style there that's now coming through. And I think here Ringo is starting to say, this is who I am. This is who I am. All right? Before we get to side 2, let's talk about I Feel Fine. All right, guys, here's the bonus round of my little Ringo Starr tribute series. Okay, so this is I Feel Fine. I Feel Fine. Remember, this was recorded within some of the sessions they were doing for Beatles For Sale, but it was released as a single, either just before the release of Beatles For Sale or during, I'm not sure. But this is the beat he did. This is the Ray Charles What I'd Say beat, or a slight variation thereof, that really got Ringo the gig. It got Ringo the gig. Let me have Paul tell that to you.
When he started playing, and we started playing, I think it was like Ray Charles, What Did I Say? And most of the drummers couldn't nail the drum part. It's a little bit clear. You had to go. It was a little difficult to do, but Ringo nailed it. And I remember the moment, just standing there and looking at John, and then looking at George, and the look on our faces was all like, fucking hell. What is this? And that was the moment, you know, that was the beginning, really, of the Beatles.
Thank you, Sir Paul. So, there's a couple of versions of this that you can do, and if you look on the internet, YouTube, you'll see a couple of guys explain it different ways, all right? The truth is, he does it even in the recording a variety of ways, okay? The main way that he does it is the way from What I'd Say. And I think depending how tired he was, how big the arena was that he was playing, because the live way that he did it was different than the recorded way. Okay, so here's the main beat. The main beat. I'm just going to play the hand part, okay, the hand part. We've got the tom, pedal of the cymbal, and the cross stick, all right? So it's We're leaving the feet out for now because he does a couple of variations on the feet. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and by the way, the recording is moving somewhere between 200 and 206 beats per minute. So it's moving, And the bass drum, it's kind of hard to tell in the mix, not 100%. He's either doing 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4, or 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, or sometimes I think he's just doing 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to be honest, I do this with my Beatles band. When I'm doing with a Beatles band, I tend to do just the 1 and 3. I think it keeps the band tighter. It keeps us together. I think it's a little easier to play, and sometimes the easier way is the better one to do live because you can give it more authority as you're playing. So let's take that up to tempo and let me show it to you. And I'll try to do the 1 and of 2 and 3 version on the bass drum, okay? Here we go. And you can see when you're adding 2 and 4 in the hi-hat there, he does that all the way through too. And that's one way to do it. Remember, he's doing it at about 200, 206, somewhere in there, okay? So he's moving. The other way that he does that in the recording, and if you listen to some of the guys on YouTube, they'll say he's doing it as a 2-bar phrase. He's not. He does it sometimes, he doesn't do it, right? And that's a little simpler version here. He goes 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1. All right, let's take that up the tempo. If you want, I hit the thing on the last one. So if you wanted to do that as a 2-bar phrase, you could. Works just fine. I don't do that as a 2-bar phrase. I sneak that in sometimes, and I don't do it other times. The other way he does it, when he does it live, he didn't do any of that cymbal stuff. He did this. Makes sense. And live, they were playing bigger arenas. To do all that cymbal work really didn't matter. Nobody could hear it. Keeping the band tight, that was the better way to do it live. But that beat is not what impresses me about that tune. It's the fill he takes in the break. That up until that point, you never hear Ringo do this kind of fill. I don't think he invented it. They did have a lot of opening acts and they played with a lot of other bands. I think he got it from somewhere, but he incorporated it. Maybe he heard it on some of the recording. I don't know. But the power of the Beatles' fame, after you hear him do it, you hear a lot of other guys start to do it. From the guy that was with Dino Danelli, that was with the Young Rascals, you hear him do it. Bonham did it later, you hear him do that kind of stuff. Jagger, Charlie Watts, you hear him do that kind of stuff, and it's this. It's in the break. The fill starts on 2, and it's a syncopation between his snare and his bass drum. And even Ringo, you hear him do this on this song, and then he does something like it on Drive My Car and Taxman, and on and on. So here we go. It's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4. One more time. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Now, up to tempo. Again. I love that fill. Again. I feel fine. That's the best stuff that Ringo did in that time period, and that's the thing you see most of his growth. Not just in the beat that he had perfected. That's why the Purdy doing all that Ringo stuff doesn't make sense, because that's a hard beat to do at 206, 200, 206 like that. And that fill shows that Ringo Because you can watch him do it live. You can watch him do it live. That Phil shows that Ringo was progressing and developing and getting better and better. All right, back to you, Vince. See you on the next one, guys. Thanks, Vince. You know, I've been running that joke the last 6 months on this channel. I don't know. You know, I don't think anybody cares. I think everybody's saying, stop with that joke. I don't care. I never have. All right. What an opener to side 2. On an album that is just kind of mediocre except for No Reply. What an opener. 8 days a week. Now these boys are shining. This is that Ringo shuffle. I've demonstrated it before. I'm going to link to the other, I'm going to link to the other Ringo Star Trek by Track things in the description. You can see some of the stuff I demonstrated of Ringo shuffles. What a shuffle. And again, you hear those 4-stroke roughs as those fills that he loves to do with the bass drum as a kicker at the end. Brum, brum, brum. What a job. Man, that thing swings for days. This is Ringo stating his case. And that's why, again, as I said with the I Feel Fine thing, or maybe I didn't say it, I don't know, I don't remember, I never recorded that part. The whole Purdy thing makes me a little crazy because Ringo could play, and you can watch the live cuts of him doing this tune, and he does it pretty much the same way he did live. All right, then after a great opener, like 8 days a week, they go to Words of Love. Again, this is another one of those Ringo bongo, maybe a light beat behind it you hear. Nothing to write home about. I think this is another George Martin Paul thing. Then we've got Honey Don't. That's another one of the Ringo kind of sing-along tunes. He's playing a country shuffle. He did well. He does it again, kind of an act naturally later, later on in the career. Fine tune, nothing to write home about. Ringo does a good job on it, laying down that country shuffle as he always does. All right, this brings me to track 4 on side 2, and that's Every Little Thing. This always reminds me of the title, Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic by the Police. Not in anything, it's nothing like that tune at all, but again, Paul thought this was going to be like his big pop tune, and really nothing happened with it. The only thing I kind of like about it is the addition of the timpani. I know that's George Martin's idea because he was into the orchestral stuff, but it's percussion. Possibly here, again, Ringo's palette beginning to increase. His palette beginning to increase. More flavor. I don't want to spoil the party. For me, this is another kind of John Lennon country sort of nod, right? And this is a really quick 8th note groove that Ringo did really well. Again, why I say that Purdy wasn't on these tunes, because this is about 200 beats a minute, and Ringo's playing those fast 8th notes, 2 and 4 on the snare. He hardly takes a fill. I don't think he takes one at all, and just kills it. And the one thing I think, when you look at the track before it with the timpani, I think Ringo's mind is beginning to open up, because in the bridge, or the middle 8, Ringo does an overdubbed tom-tom thing in the middle of his tune. So he's playing the groove, and then you hear this tom-tom thing just for 8 bars that he overdubs on top of his other groove. And I think Ringo's mind now to rhythm is beginning to expand. It's not just a tambourine, not just hand claps. He's adding another rhythm on top. And really that idea begins to permeate the entire industry. So this became a thing that drummers started to do. I'm not saying Ringo was the first one. I don't know. But it's cool. Once again, we see the palette of Ringo Starr beginning to grow. And now we have What You're Doing. This has that great Ronnie Spector beat in it. And here again, my appreciation of Ringo, track by track for Ringo. This is not about Ringo's growth. This is ability to use a whole bunch of ideas, right? You hear him using a bossa in a rock and roll tune, right? You hear him using a rumba in a rock and roll tune. And now he uses a very Ronnie Spector bum, 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 da, bum, 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 da. I was going to demonstrate on this, but I'm not gonna. It's a very easy one to play, but it was very much not his idea, an idea he borrowed. Maybe Paul said he was thinking of this, maybe Paul said that to him, but the fact that he used it and he incorporated it, once again, we see Ringo beginning to grow. And that's the thing about Ringo Starr. All the way through, we see his stylings begin to grow. He keeps using other musical, rhythmical art forms, right, in the Beatles' pop rock music. He keeps bringing them in. He keeps bringing them in, from the black R&B to the bossa novas. He keeps bringing them in. Whether or not they were suggested by other folks in the band, he brings them in and they become part of his palette. Part of his palette. Yes, Ringo Starr was an innovative, creative, inventive, smart rock pop drummer, and it can't be taken away. They close this tune with Everybody Wants to Be My Baby. You know, again, another cover tune. The boys retired. It's okay. It's okay. It's one of those little rock and roll shuffles that Ringo likes to do. They don't sound that tight on it, to be truthful. For this album, the thing we want to point to is No Reply, the use of an actual real bossa nova in the verses, straight up bossa nova. I'm going to link to my other video too, which I just did on the bossa nova. I'm going to link to a slightly different version of it. I got blocked in a couple of countries because of a clip I used of Blame It on Bossa Nova. I'm going to take that out and put it as a listed thing so folks can click on it. And then you can see my thing on the bossa nova if you don't know what one is. And then in those sessions, I feel fine. The reason Ringo got the gig. All right, guys. That's a quickie for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Track by track with Ringo Starr. The next thing I'm going to do, I think, unless something throws me off track, sometimes I get inspired to do something else, but we're going to do one more Occam's Razor. We're going to talk about Paul dead? All right, we're going to take that little conspiracy apart. I'm having fun doing the conspiracy things. And it breaks the monotony of just instruction. And I got some more musicians on couches coming up for you too. All right, see you guys.